Modern Horizons 2, we've just entered spoiler season, but which cards are going to be introduced into Modern? Welcome back to my channel. I am Mattcaster Mage. I make Magic the Gathering content on a daily basis, so hit that subscribe button if you want to get in on the fun. Now, Modern Horizons 2, the original set came out in 2019. Now, the whole point of Modern Horizons was to introduce cards into Modern without always having to reprint Modern cards like the Modern Masters series. Obviously, they knew that they couldn't just keep reprinting the same cards over and over again that we're seeing play, and they thought it could be a new instrument to actually introduce newer cards or maybe potentially create new decks in Modern altogether. Now, a lot of the cards that they brought into Modern Horizons 1 were cards that we're seeing play in Legacy, or just cards that were printed in the Legacy era. So there was even like easy lands, like do you remember the cycling lands that we got, like Tranquil Thicket, you know, Lonely Sandbar, those cycling lands? Like, those are the type of cards that I'm talking about. We're not going to speculate on really expensive cards that are seeing a lot of play in Legacy necessarily. I wanted to talk about cards that I think could see real potential as being reprint targets to be introduced into the format Modern. Now, let's start that list off here with some tribal lands. Now, they've already stated that it's going to be a heavily tribal set, Modern Horizons. So, well, what does that mean? Well, we know that we're probably going to get a lot of squirrels in Modern Horizons 2. Some are going to be new cards introduced into the set, but some will probably be, well, reprints from older sets. Now, the tribal lands that I'm going to mention first are not actually going to be a squirrel land, and they're not going to actually involve squirrels as a tribe at all. Actually, it's Goblin Burrows, Starlit Sanctum, and Wirewood Lodge. Now, these were tribal lands that we got in Onslaught, which is from the Legions block, and that was a very heavily tribal-based set. Now, I actually think that we are going to be getting a lot of reprints from Onslaught and Legions inside Modern Horizons 2. Now, these tribal lands, they're very useful in Commander, and they could even see some play in Modern. Now, obviously, Starlit Sanctum could be a tribal card seeing play in maybe a Cleric deck. I know that card was recently spiking because of all the Clerics that we got in Zendikar Rising, and that had a party mechanic as well. Now, Goblin Burrows is probably the weaker of the three tribal lands, but it still might see a bit of play. It does see a little bit of play in Commander and tribal Commander builds, like with Grenko, Mob Boss, but Wirewood Lodge is probably the highest potential to see play and maybe shake up Modern a bit. Now, Elves are one of those tribes that has been struggling a lot in Modern. It just doesn't have the same love that it does in Legacy. Now, maybe if they have a reprint like Wirewood Lodge, that could change things significantly and give Elves a more level playing field to actually have a deck made around it in Modern. Now, another card is a powerful uncommon. Now, this card is Chain Lightning. I think this card could really burn through Modern, pun intended. Now, decks that would probably see this in play would be maybe Izzet Blitz. I could see it being played in, obviously, Burn as another tool in its toolkit, and I could see Burn, if Chain Lightning gets reprinted, I could see Burn becoming a lot more powerful. But obviously, it's got a little bit of a setback in its mechanics, not quite as good as Lightning Bolt. But nonetheless, I think it would be a very powerful addition in Modern Horizons 2, and I could see this card being reprinted. Now, here's another one. Even as I thought about this, I wrote this one down as a potential spec, I could see how it could be a bit of a problem, and that is Cabal Therapy. Now, Cabal Therapy is a card that would probably see play in Dredge if it is reprinted, but Dredge is one of those kind of problematic decks sometimes. It gets a lot of hate, and it's usually a target for a lot of bannings because, you know, like we had a Hodak, I believe, from Modern Horizons 1. That was another card that got into like Dredgevine decks, and like we had a lot of Dredge mechanics that revolved around it, and it really, you know, shook up Modern. But I could see Cabal Therapy potentially being reprinted. Now, we know that bannings are just a thing that happens a lot with Wizards of the Coast, and sometimes they'll print cards that end up having too much of an influence on the format. And well, Cabal Therapy could be one of those cards, but for some reason I'm getting a hunch that I think Cabal Therapy could be in this set. And again, yes, it will definitely shake up Modern. And I wanted to make this video just to give my thoughts on what I think are going to be potential predictions before all of the predictions start rolling out next week. Like, well, the actual real cards are going to be spoiled next week, and I wanted to get ahead of it and put out my predictions and speculations before that happens, because that way, if any of these come true, I can be like, I knew it, gotcha, told you so. But if they don't happen, well, that's fine. These are just things that I think will happen, and maybe they will be reprinted. Anyways, I do not have a weekend mover video out today. It's just I just couldn't get around to doing it, so I actually scheduled this video to come out in lieu of that video on Sunday. So, well, I will see you on Monday for another Market Movers, and I have a live stream coming on later today, so please join me for that as well. All right, with that being said, enjoy the rest of your day. Being a patron will help me produce more Market Movers and add to the funds that I will use for my random buys, and also to my coffee fund, because I drink a lot of coffee for these videos. And here you can see a link below in the description that will give you all the tiers and what you get in each tier, so I hope you guys click and think about joining, and with that, I'll see you next video. Think about supporting the channel in that way. If not, subscribe, like, leave a comment, and I will see you again in the next video.